Hey guys, welcome. Thank you for joining. This is the Oracle Autonomous Database Learning Lounge. I'm Marty Gubar, part of the product management team for Autonomous Database. And today we're going to have a very, very cool session. So for the session today, we're going to be talking about how to actually build a generative AI powered app, right? But with your data, right? So you're going to learn, definitely how to actually use your data, right? Instead of just using potentially the old data that is in the GenAI engines, right? And the models themselves. So for the agenda today, we have Marty Gubar. He's a director of product management, and also Jeff Smith. He's a distinguished product manager, and they're going to be basically taking us to a journey on RESTful, application development, and all of the things that include actually AI and advanced capabilities, right? So they will be talking about how quickly and easily it is for you to actually build and deliver value, right, on these AI services. And they're going to be using RESTful, right, and REST endpoints, and showing you guys how to build these apps and how to work with them, right? At any time, do you guys have questions? We're going to have an open Q&A. So basically, if you have questions, type them into the Q&A section of Zoom. And we're going to actually distribute some links to you guys using chat, okay? Also, the recording is going to be available a few days after the session today. And if you want to see the recording, just go back to the page that you guys used to come here. Or basically, that's the bit.ly/adb-learning-lounge. Okay? So some important links for you guys to bookmark. Basically, our new Get Started page, right? That's the right place to start. So I'm going to just be pasting these links right now in chat. So you guys should see them. And, you can join us on LinkedIn and X as well. And if you have questions, Stack Overflow, right? We're going to be looking at those questions there. All right. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to let you guys share your screen. Thank you very much, Jeff and Marty, for joining today. And take it away.
All right. Thanks for everyone for showing up, for doing the homework quiz up front. We promise no more pop quizzes. Well, maybe one, I don't know. We're here to share some of the cool things we've been building here at Oracle. I fall into that AI bucket that many of you do, where I'm kind of on the not at all, or maybe just once or twice for play. If you don't know me or Marty, we are product managers here at Oracle on the Oracle database team. We spend a lot of time in the autonomous world, but even just in the regular Oracle database world. I'm specialist in REST APIs, and Marty's just to specialize in anything that's cool, or at least that's what I've come to find out. And we've both dressed appropriately today, I think, for the lounge, right? I'm very happy to lounge today and hang out with friends and share some cool information. And we do invite you to ask questions in the Q&A. All right. And we're pretty easy to find offline. So if you see Marty and I on LinkedIn or on Twitter, if you have our email addresses, don't hesitate to reach out and say hi, or ask questions, or even share like some of the cool things that you're building with our tech. One little AI story I have to share. I got curious, like, could ChatGPT build a REST API for me using our database REST API tech? So I just asked it. I was like, hey, I think I did like 3 or 4 prompts with a couple of refinements, and I got pretty far along, farther than I thought I would. Not so far along that I was like, oh no, I'm not going to have a job anymore. But AI is just moving so fast that it's hard to keep up. So I'm excited to talk today a little bit about how the autonomous database platform in the Oracle Cloud really gives developers everywhere a huge leg up when it comes to building applications or microservices or integrations with other technology via REST APIs. So I'm going to do that part up front, and then I'm going to hand over to the bulk of the session over to Marty, and he's going to talk about some of the really cool things you can do with AI today in autonomous. So I'm up front, and we're going to hand over to Marty. So a lot of times I'm talking to Oracle developers, and they're very used to this universe where we give you the driver for the framework or the language that you're dealing with. So you're doing .NET development. Hey, here's your Microsoft drivers, or heck, you're doing Java development. I think when I'm talking to customers, probably the vast majority of our developers are Java based. So of course they get JDBC drivers, but the old SQLnet routine, we're all very familiar with that. But we've spent the last 10, 15 years here at Oracle to be much more connected than just that. So we try to give to you out of the box the whole enchilada. So also, the most ubiquitous, easiest to use, most common communication layer, HTTPS, or at least since the internet came into play. So REST APIs. And then also October of last year, we introduced support for GraphQL queries. Now, GraphQL queries does not apply to this topic today, but if you have questions and you want to get into that, feel free to reach out, and I'd be more than happy to talk to you in your org about how GraphQL can be hooked up into your autonomous database. So regardless of which access layer you're using, at the end of the day, you're talking to an Oracle database. So you get that full ACID compliance you're looking for, and it scales horizontally and vertically. And in the autonomous world, we're doing almost all of the management for you. We're keeping it patched, we're keeping it secure, and we're keeping it highly available. So as a developer, you get to come in, you get to put your data in, write your cool code, and then just build really kick-butt apps on top of it, or at least that's the dream, right? Maybe you don't have to write as much code as you used to. Maybe now some of the AI stuff handles that for you. A lot of application developers out there, if they want to start building REST APIs, they have some homework to do. So they're going to stand up Node somewhere. They're going to install some popular JavaScript libraries. They're going to write a lot of JavaScript code. And then, they're going to get the REST APIs that I want. And they'll be as friendly as they code them to be. It'll have the paging technology, the security mechanisms that they themselves build into it, or that some other package gives them. And then they're going to have to set up that infrastructure and run it and do monitoring and maintenance and keep that all patched. And if there's a CVE that pops on their JavaScript library, they're going to have to go and sort that. The world that Marty and I are coming from, none of this is necessary. I mean, you could do this if you want, but in our world, you don't need to set up Node. You don't have to put together, 10, 12, 15 JavaScript libraries and get all of the linking done. You don't have to write any JavaScript code at all, and you don't have any infrastructure to manage. So in the autonomous world, it's very developer ready. Like the second your database is brought up, you have out of the box a web interface if you want. So not even anything to install on your machine as a developer. I don't have to set up SQLnet. I don't have to download a tool. I can just go straight into the browser, straight from the console where you created the database, for example, and get a database session. And we have a REST API development environment right there in the browser. We give you all the SDKs that you need. All of the REST API tech that we have is implemented via PL SQL in the database. So you could do everything via scripted SQL scripts. You can hand code it if you want. You could use our fancy GUIs if you want. As you're building these REST APIs, we give you the Swagger tooling that you're accustomed to if you've built REST APIs for other environments before, right? So we give you the open API spec definitions that you can share with other developers, the fancy documentation pages with the try it now buttons. That's all given to you out of the box. The infrastructure, the database itself, the web server that hosts the REST APIs, that's all maintained by us. So whichever region you're running in, there are multiple databases there. If we have to patch a database, you don't have outages for that. We just rotate you around. You never know the difference. All of our web infrastructure is set up for high availability. If one pops down, there's 10 others there to take care of it. If demand goes up, we can throw new boxes into the infrastructure, and the load balance just, redistributes traffic. We take care of all of that for you. For high availability, we have outages sometimes. If you want to set up high availability where you can fail over to, a different region in a different country, even, we can do that. And we even have cloud services allow you to test those failovers. So lots and lots of features that you don't have to code for. And if you're coming in from brand new and you've never done any of this before, then we have things like our Live Labs environment where you can actually borrow our environments, run our tutorials, even just literally click the copy and paste buttons to teach yourself this stuff. The Live Labs, I think I've got like maybe a half a dozen really good Live Labs on just REST APIs in particular. So if you need help finding any of those, send me a note. I think we saw a bunch of Apex developers. That's awesome. Hi to our Apex friends. It looked like we had like a quarter of you were maybe on the JavaScript side, and I'll just assume the rest of you are Java or something else. The beauty of REST APIs is it can be accessed from any platform, any environment, and pretty much any programming language today. There's nothing to install like from a regular Oracle universe where you have to get an instant client or a client and set up your libraries on your Mac so there aren't any conflicts, or worrying about wallets and database usernames and passwords. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Really, all you need is the list of API endpoints and a set of credentials or an OAuth2 client, to access those things, and then your programs can immediately hook up into them. And that also means if you change your application stack, really it's just the front end that you're changing. The back end, the APIs themselves are just sitting there. Or, you could have one set of APIs that powers your mobile devices, your web apps, your desktop applications, and even your automation frameworks. Or if someone comes up and says, hey, I know we told everyone that Go was the thing, but now we're going to do everything in React. It's a big deal, yes, but you're not changing everything. The APIs underneath all of those front ends are unchanged. We have many, many customers in the autonomous world doing many, many cool things with the REST APIs. This is close to an exhaustive list. If you're doing something with REST APIs that isn't on this list, let me know so I can add even more bullet points. And I'm not going to read all these off. We're very popular in financial institutions because people are very attracted to the security and the performance of Oracle. And a lot of the financial institutions are using REST APIs to power, trading systems and reporting on those trading systems. We're very popular in retail. Some of the cooler stuff like chatbots, those are often powered by REST APIs. Really old school Oracle people, they'll have ModPL SQL apps that they need to transition out. People can use REST APIs to replace those. Or DBAs that aren't fond of database links, you can theoretically replace with REST APIs in many cases. So really, it's left up to your imagination what you can do with these things. So I told you didn't have to write any JavaScript. Now, technically, you can write some JavaScript if you want, because we can actually do JavaScript in the database. That's a new feature in 21C and 23C. But I'm not meaning that. I mean JavaScript in your mid-tier to actually define the REST APIs themselves. That's the beauty of this. Old dinosaurs like Marty and I can come in onto a system and use the SQL and the PL SQL that we already know and have a really cool REST API pop out on the other side. It can be even easier than that. We can take the programs we've already written and the tables and views we've already created and simply just checkbox enable those, and those REST APIs pop out for us. But this is just an example of like the 25 lines of code I had to write to build a functional, secure, performant endpoint to add employees into a payroll system. And I can build into this all of the RESTful friendly things. You know, when we create things, we give you the right status code, we give you a link to redirect to the resource you just created. If an end user does something wrong, and that end user would be whoever the consumer of the API is or the developer that built the interface on the API. If bad input comes in, you know, you get a nice error message back that would be expected, like a 400, hey, you shouldn't do that, do this. And these are all running in the database. So we automatically inherit all the protections your administrators have built into the database. So I'm not very good at development. So Marty's going to put me in a resource consumer group that says, hey, none of Jeff's code ever gets more than 5% of the CPU on the system. So anyone that's using my APIs, you know, they're not going to be able to take the system down with the denial of service attacker actually just trying to use my APIs, and they're so bad, you know, they suck up all the CPU. All the security mechanisms defined in the database, all these APIs are going to automatically adhere to. So if we're querying sensitive data and you've got redaction enabled, your data is going to be redacted. Yada, yada, yada. All of those cool Oracle database features are just natively, naturally available in your REST APIs because we're building them with SQL and PL SQL, the actual things in the database. And then when I start going to go play with my REST APIs, the responses are all formatted and controlled by us. I don't have to code in the how to handle paging, how to handle the transformation of, you know, a ref cursor into a JSON object. Our code takes care of that for you. It's very much like SQL. I just want you to describe what you want the endpoint to do, and our code manages how to make that happen in terms of an HTTP interface. And security-wise, you know, security is key. It's one of the #1 selling points for Autonomous. It's probably the most secure Oracle database, if not the most secure database in the world. So it's very easy to secure your endpoints. We're not using database privileges and roles. We're using web level privileges and roles. So my authenticated user or my authenticated OAuth 2 client is going to have roles attached to that, and those roles give me access to various resources on the web server, in this case, the REST APIs. So if I try to access something and my credentials aren't good, I've never made it into the database. I actually never make it into the database at all. All I'm doing is hitting the web server, and the web server is going in and doing things in the database for me. So as a consumer of the REST APIs, I don't even theoretically know there is an Oracle database on the other side. I'm just asking for the resource known as employees, and it's coming from somewhere. And I've talked a lot more than I told Marty I would talk, and this is where I'm going to hand over. So I'm going to stop the share and let Marty reshare.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, why don't I pick up from here? So Jeff just kind of described, you know, the whole, like all the goodness in terms of how we've made it super easy to put REST endpoints and build web services on top of the database. Now we're going to apply it. And let's apply it to Gen AI use cases. And there's so many use cases, right? Customer operations. Maybe you want to, and we're going to go run through a few of these. So maybe you want to look at feedback of an interaction with a support rep, or you want to do a promotional campaign with personalization, right? Specific to that customer, and say it in a really compelling voice. And this is the kind of thing that generative AI is brilliant at, right? It's so creative in terms of creating new and innovative content that can use your voice or whatever voice you want to use. So there is, you know, we all have played with ChatGPT and generative AI. I said this last week, mind-blowing, right? The challenge is there are some limits to them, right? One of the big ones, and I think this was said by Marcos earlier, they're frozen in time, right? They captured, or they were built on data from a couple of years ago generally. But really important is they don't know your company's private data, right? This is your crown jewel. Your company's data is yours. You don't want to share it with the provider, right? The provider, it doesn't have access inside your databases and your firewalls. So this is what we're doing. So what we're doing with Autonomous Database and a capability called Select AI is making it simple, right? Make it simple for you to get answers about your business using natural language, right? And if you think about Autonomous Database, it does a really nice job of integrating data from all different sources, right? From your apps, from data lakes. Those data lakes may be on Oracle Cloud, they may be on AWS, right? So you are able to get this integrated view of your organization's data. And then what Select AI does is it enables you, as I said, to then use your language. Marcos was going through this yesterday. He was using Portuguese for looking at customer churn. It was very cool, right? It just used your language to analyze that data with AI, right? And so let's just do a couple of demonstrations of this in action. In this case, we're going to be showing it in action using a low-code or two apps that were developed with Apex. So the first, and I'm going to be very, very quick on this because I know I have a lot to cover, is just the ability to have natural language conversations. I want to ask a question to my data. So I'm a movie streaming company, and what I want to see is what are our total views broken out by genre? I asked my question. In this case, it was voice activated or voice generated. It's now talking to the model. It's identifying. This is all through Select AI. We're using an Apex app that you can use. We have this as available as a live lab, right? So you can see everything we're doing right now. You'll be able to do yourself. So here's our total views broken out by genre. This was generated for me automatically, right, using Select AI. And in this case, a large language model that translated that language into SQL. So in this case, what it did is it said, okay, I'm going to look at genre, total views, and I'm going to join multiple tables, and I'm going to come back with that result. Okay, so this is one way you can use Select AI, right? And Select AI makes it super easy to build these apps. Another way is to kind of do different types of analytics where you're going to be combining your data with data that's with generative AI. So in this second example, we have different use cases. We created different GenAI projects. One is a movie email promotion. The other is summarizing a support chat, things to do at a destination, right? So if I look at, let's say, summarize the support chat, or I want to do movie email promotions. So in our movie email promotion, what we're going to do is we have tasks that we want to do. For this promotion, I'm going to create a promotional email with a catchy subject line and some convincing email text. Follow these rules. Recommend 3 movies from our promoted list. Don't let them know that we're promoting these movies. Use lots of fun emojis in the response and finish the email thanking them. Okay, so this is what I want to accomplish. In and of itself, the model doesn't know about your data, right? It cannot answer these questions without your data. So we're going to blend this information, these tasks that we're done using your language and combining that with a query where we have, hey, these are the movies that we want to promote. Here's the latest movies that the customer has seen. And here's details about the customer, right? Their age, they have kids, blah, 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 all this great stuff. So now I'm going to generate a response. So what we're doing is we're packaging up that into a request. Here's the task that we'd like to do. This will take maybe about a minute. We're going to create a promotional email. This is all the stuff that we just looked at, but we packaged it up as a document. And here's that customer information. It's Janine. She's 37, a female. She has no kids. This is her marital status. These are the movies that she watched, and these are the movies that we would like to promote. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick those movies that are most similar to those that she's watched. And here's the result. Hey, Janine, movie magic awaits you, right? We hope you find this well. Based on your recent watches, we think you're going to love Back to the Future because you love Spider-Man, Schindler's List, similar to Shame. All this stuff is just you control using your language that promotion. Think about what you had to do before. Like, how would you have created this promotion before? I got to tell you something. It wasn't as easy as just asking a model what you want it to do and combining it with your data. Like I said, I find this kind of mind-blowing, right? How incredibly cool this is. So, we just looked at this through a couple Apex apps. But the question is, how do you provide these services, or how do you make these services available to any application, right? Apex or your custom apps, something maybe you want to embed this into to whatever apps that you may have or apps that you may be building. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do that from the application logic side to the deployment, as Jeff described, using Oracle REST services. So honestly, at Select AI, there's three, I would say there's more. There's a few more APIs, but the three things that you really need to worry about or use is really just these three simple APIs. The first is to create a profile. What's an AI profile? An AI profile says, this is your provider you're going to use. I'm going to use OpenAI. I'm going to use OCI. We have the new OCI GenAI service. So we'll have support for that probably the next couple of weeks. What model, what LLM do you want to use within that service? Because they can have multiple, right? If for OCI, we support Cohere. We also support Llama 2. So there's different models. So you specify information about your provider that you want to use. The beauty of this is that it's pluggable. You pick the best model and provider based on your requirements, right? We're not tied to any existing one. And you can, within a given app, you can try OpenAI. How'd that work? Well, maybe it got decent results. Now I'm going to try Cohere on OCI, better results for doing my analytics, right? So it's very simple to try the different profiles, right? And to tweak them without having to change your application code. It's literally captured. It's all encapsulated inside a profile. So that's one. We have this profile that makes it simple to use these different services. The second is, well, I want to run some SQL. And we have, we've extended SQL in Autonomous Database with an AI keyword. And so you can now, through SQL, say, select AI, what are my total sales broken out by movie genre? You ask the question in your language, in a select statement. We'll dig into that a little bit. And the third, which is actually what we're going to be using for our application code, because when you're developing your business logic using scripting, you're going to want to use the database scripting. So we have a generate function, and that's going to interact with the model. It's going to generate SQL. You can use it to just chat with the data, and we use that for generating, let's say, those marketing campaigns and whatnot. So the profile, I kind of dug into it a little bit. This is actually the code behind it. I'm not going to spend where you say, hey, I'm going to create this profile. In this case, my provider is OCI, and this is the model that I want to use, right? Now, maybe in this use case, I'm going to use this one for doing perhaps analytics, right? This next one, if I want to use it for natural language querying, OpenAI is a really good model for doing natural language querying. So what you do is what you specify as part of the profile is not just the provider and the model that you want to use, But you also specify what are the tables that you want to participate in natural language processing, right? So you can specify, all the tables in a schema, or you can specify specific tables that you want to participate in natural language processing. So those are going to be the
Hey,
sources.
Marty, can I?
Yeah.
A couple of good
Okay.
questions. I'm sure a lot of people are asking the same thing. What you're doing right now, can others also do in their autonomous environment?
100%. Yeah. And there is a live lab that steps you through this. So
And
yeah.
that was, what if they're in the free tier?
Yes, you can do this in the free tier for sure. The model itself would, I don't know if the AI model, if OCI Gen AI is in the free tier. Not sure. You can definitely connect to other models if you already have them as well. So you could use, so I imagine that the AI service is probably not in the free tier. But
they could always borrow one of our environments and play with it via the live
sure.
lab.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So this is like, you can now run natural language queries with SQL, which is kind of, for all of those of you who write SQL code, this is going to look very different, right? Where's the from? Where's my column list, right? So here you just say, select AI, what are our top 10 streamed movies that were released after 2010, right? That query, autonomous data, and this runs an autonomous database, it's going to say, oh, you have this AI keyword. I'm going to connect to your model, turn that language into SQL, run that SQL, and produce the result. So it's managing that entire process for you, right? So here's our top 10 streamed movies after 2010. Additionally, you can show the SQL behind it. So if maybe you're developing an app and you just want a head start in terms of, help me write my SQL, you can do that as well with show SQL. What's kind of amazing here, think about this. We're using SQL Developer. It is now SQL Developer is now a natural language query tool. SQL Developer knows nothing about natural language. So if SQL Developer can do this, anything, no offense, Jeff. No offense, Jeff.
And more like even I could do this.
Right.
I don't know.
Jeff is also a product manager for SQL Developer. So if SQL Developer can do this, anything can do this. Your app can do this too. And that's what's kind of cool, right? It makes it really easy to create new apps or extend existing apps, right? If your app can speak SQL, you can do this. Now, the second one that we're going to do is that case where we want to say, hey, I want to create that personalized email. Well, in that case, what you do as part of that task is we're going to use an API called Generate, and we're going to create the prompt. The prompt is the combination of the task that you'd like to achieve, create a promotional email based on movies that the person has watched in the past, pick the top 3. So literally, that's the natural language task, and then combine it with the data that you want that task to operate over, right? So you're kind of blending those two things. So in this case, we did that context, right, for maybe the customer information from the travel destination, that's coming from the database, that's private. You have your prompt instructions of what you're going to do. You pass that over to the model, right? The model then generates that really compelling response. That's literally what you do, right? It's very, very straightforward. So in our case, we had, I created a table that had the task and the rules. So a task was pick 5 great things to do at a location. What was it? The support chats, right? So these are the tasks, things to do at a destination, movie email promotion, summarize a support chat. So I just put those in a table. And here you can see the task and the task rules. And then I'm combining it with information about the customer. Who is that customer? Where are they going? What location are they going to? Their age, their gender, their kids, etc. So now I've combined these two things, and I have formed very nicely in a query. But how do I take that query and pass it to the model, right, to get the result? And this is kind of the beauty of Autonomous, and the beauty of the database is things like JSON support. All you need to do is wrap that same query with select JSON object. Wrap that query within that function, and now you have a well-structured prompt that you're going to pass to the model. The prompt is clear. The model will have an easy time understanding how to do that task, because it's very, you have a very structured way of passing that information over. The last name, the first name, the location, etc., right? Combined with the rules. So you really want to make sure that you create clear prompts for the LLM to operate over. And this is a really nice way of doing just that, right? So great. I've got this. I took this code, which was very easy, and I wrapped it all up. And now what I want to do is put a REST endpoint over it and make that code, those analytics available across my organization, right? And there's two ways to do it with REST, and Jeff was talking about this, right? The first is automatic, right? We're going to publish an endpoint in really just a couple clicks, and Oracle REST Data Services is going to completely manage the whole thing. It's going to manage the API organization, everything you want to do, or that whole process, right? So if I go here and I go into database actions, so I'm going to go to a procedure, right, where I'm asking my question. This is the AI question, for query by natural language queries. And it's using those functions that we just described. So what I did is I just created a really simple PL SQL procedure called ask question. And I'm going to enable it. And I should be using authentication, but that's it, right? So everything is managed. The deployment of that whole API is managed by the service. So now if I go into auto REST, I can see that we have the ask question here. I can do this. I'll look at my open API view. Okay, so here it is. And what I'm going to do now is just simply try it out. I'm going to ask my question. So the ask question now is a REST endpoint. And I'm going to pass to this REST endpoint, which you can now access through anything. My question is, what are my total views of Tom Hanks movies, right? This is now a REST request that's being executed, and I'm in the REST designer, right? Or the REST interface in Autonomous Database and Oracle REST that's just built in, right? The beauty of it is I didn't need to do anything. All this stuff was just here and ready for me to use. And so now what I can see is my total views of Tom Hanks movies. So I can see, here's our total views. Here's the query that was generated for me automatically, and the question that was asked. So you can take this request. Here's the request URL. That's how your app is going to be accessing it over REST. Well,
there's even code sample somewhere. So you can even say, hey, give me the X code to exercise this API. I forget where it's at, but it's in there somewhere.
It is. So the other thing, though, if you look at this is all managed by ORDS, which is nice. I think, and Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong. In reality, I think you're probably going to design your own organization, right? This is one of many APIs that you may want to create. And so where one was automatic, this is just simple, right? So that's all good, right? So basically you kind of have two different ways where you can work with Autonomous and the REST data services to define those endpoints and to make them available. The first is you can start from a design tool, right? So maybe you're using Postman, maybe you're using Swagger or any open API tool, right? So what you're going to do is you can define your APIs and then import that into Autonomous and implement your business logic, right? In this case, the APIs. So you have the design of the API, but then you actually have to say, well, let's put the code behind that. The second way of doing it is, well, I have my code already implemented. And now what I want to do is maybe use Swagger or whatever to document the API, right? And test it out and whatnot, or use Postman. So you can export that from our Autonomous into the tools, your tools of choice. So let's take a look at that now. So here I have a module. And in this case, my module, I called it API, and you can call it anything that you want, right? And I have lots of different endpoints. One for creating that customer promotion, another for asking an AI question, another for summarizing a support chat, or doing a lookup on a data on a movie, just a search for movies, right? So what you do is you create a module, and then you create the APIs that within that module. So for my API, and you organize it any way that you want, right? So here I said, well, I'm going to create something called AI support chat. It takes one parameter, which is the chat ID, right? And then you simply specify the handler for that endpoint, which in this case is a really simple function. Get the response. In this case, it's saying for the summary, if we go back to our GenAI projects, ID number 2 is summarize a support chat. Well, that's what we're calling here. We're looking at project number 2. So if we're exposing each of our GenAI projects, things to do at a destination, movie email promotions, summarize a support chat, as their own REST endpoints. And so basically you expose them when they're ready, right? Whenever they're ready. In this case, I'm going to pass this along. So how does this look now? Well, if I go back into my module and I say, well, I'm going to look at an open API view of this. Here's my support chat, for example, and I'm going to try it out. And what I'll do is I'll specify that chat ID, and here you can see the interaction. That this was the support interaction. They go, hey, I've been staring at my computer screen for hours and it's been giving me the silent treatment. Oh no, we can't have that. So this is like this long back and forth between a support rep and a customer. So this is what's being analyzed by the endpoint. And it comes back and says, well, what the project was I'm going to summarize the customer support chat, provide a 2-sentence summary of the chat. Was it successfully resolved? And what was the customer sentiment at the end of that chat, right? So we go back here and we can now see that they asked that question for this customer number 1, this chat issue number 1. And the summary is the customer was having issues with their computer not responding. And the support rep humorously suggested to speak to it in binary before doing a restart, which solved the issue. And they were amused and happy. The customer appreciated it, and it was successfully resolved, right? So this is a nice way of just like kind of interacting with your data. All right, so
Hey, heads up, we got a ton of great questions that I was not able to get to. So if we have time to work those in before people have to run.
Give me 2 minutes. So, thanks, Jeff.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
So I want to use this now. Maybe I want to take this and drop it into OpenAI, OpenAPI, right? You can then take that and download it. Here's your spec. I now use the tools that I want to use for working with the model, right? So here's the that API document. I'm looking at this. I'm using actually the open API within the plugin to VS Code, and I can see all of my APIs within the tools that I like to use, and I can go back to this same chat question, try it out. Everything that I just did a second ago, I can do from within here as well. And maybe, so this is where you created the APIs, and now you're basically going to use this to document those APIs, right? The other approach is you designed your APIs, perhaps from within here, and now you want to import them into Oracle REST. So I'm going to go here and say, under my modules, import module. And here is my module definition. I import it. I'm going to give it a name called Analytics Webcast API. And guess what? It's now here, right? So here's my modules. I have this new one. Here's my API. And now it's my responsibility simply to go in and add your business logic. So that is kind of the deal here. Our goal is to make it easy, right, for you to use the tools you want to use to build these services, right, and use GenAI. It's kind of mind-blowingly powerful. Everything that we're doing today, you can get started with today. Go to Live Labs, check out Chat with Your Data. Actually, go to this this Getting Started link. And if you go there, what you'll find is not just a link to the webcast, but also the workshops. I'm sorry, here's the webcast. Here's the webcasts that are coming up, but workshops and more. So Jeff, what are some of the final questions? Because I know we are running out of time.
Let me fire a couple of them at you, and I'll just do the hard ones.
No! Okay.
Someone's asking, is this implementation taking advantage of our vector technology yet?
That is a great question. So vector is coming to Oracle database with 23C. So this is not yet using vector. We also have stay tuned for support with Select AI and vectors, because actually there's actually a lot of work going on in that front to take advantage of vectors. Honestly, vectors kind of adds a layer of sophistication and power on top of what we just described. So more to come up.
Another question and related questions, is there some place they can go to see some of the code behind, like what does the ask question procedure actually do?
So a blog is coming where we'll have the code behind all this. We're also going to have a second Live Labs coming.
Be sure you like and subscribe for updates. Hit the notification bell.
Exactly. So expect it within the next couple of weeks. There should be another Live Labs that show all the code behind this.
Someone else asked, well, a couple of questions. One, is this available on Autonomous Dedicated, or even is this available outside of Autonomous?
Right now, it's available on Autonomous Serverless. So that's the deployment.
Oh, let's see what else is in here. I'm looking for easy questions. It looks like someone's asked, hey, can we use this with different LLMs? Like someone's asking, hey, am I able to take advantage of Meta Llama -2? I don't even know what that is. That's how much of a
Yeah, so you can. The models that we support are OpenAI, Cohere. OCI GenAI support is coming soon, within the next in February. So that actually has within it Llama 2 chat from Meta, and as well as Cohere and multiple models. So yeah, the model support is pluggable. You have to stay within our support, but we support multiple models, and as new models come out that are important, we'll add those as well.
The other questions, I just don't think we have the time for, but we get the recordings with the questions, so we could turn into a blog post, share the replay, and have a list of the Q&A afterwards too. But we had an awesome number of people show up. Did we break a record, Marcos?
Yes,
Did we get a trophy?
I think so.
Ah,
You guys
sweet.
got a trophy. All right.
I want to say thanks to everyone for hanging out with us. So
Yeah,
happy
totally.
2020.
Really fun. I get very excited, and I can't wait to hear your feedback. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Right. And so there are actually folks who are asking questions as well in chat. But, you know, one is like, can we use this for any kind of business domains, right? And I think the answer is yes, right? As long as your LLM, right, is capable, and they should normally, right,
Yep.
of understanding these domains, that should help. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to just send out the quick survey before we before the end of the call, but I'm continuing to read the Q&A, and actually we're going to make sure, you know, I'm going to make sure that you guys get the answers, okay? So by email, if we are unable to answer everything to you guys.
But someone else is asking about, hey, can we combine this with the multilingual engine? And since there's a SQL interface and MLE can mix JavaScript and SQL, yes, the answer to that would be yes. Almost any of the database features could be integrated into this. So it's very exciting. I have a lot to learn. I learned a lot today. Thanks, Marty.
Yeah.
And I think there were, Marty, a few good questions talking about data, right? People worried about what kind of data are you sending the LLM, right? Are you sending my data to the LLM or, right? So I think
that is a really good question, right? So this is the beauty of using it with OCI GenAI, right? So when you're using it, it never leaves Oracle Cloud. If you want to keep it within your tenancy, you could use your own AI cluster. But the benefit is, one, you benefit from Oracle security. So you're only going to see data that you should see. And the second thing is, when you're using OCI GenAI, your data is never shared with model providers. Oracle doesn't. It's secure, right? So that is like a huge benefit of using it with OCI GenAI. And I would say too, when you're I should say, when you're using the SQL Gen capabilities, only metadata is shared, right? The data is never shared.
yeah, that was one of the important questions there. Another one was, can models do Oracle specific features like time series, graph SQL? I think that's still coming, right?
That's still coming, right? So that's also one of the benefits of OCI GenAI, right? So there are going to be models, and we're working with their teams to create models that really understand or are tuned for Oracle APIs, Oracle specific proprietary stuff, like what you're talking about. So that is coming. But yeah, these things are pretty incredible, frankly, at figuring out lots of different languages for sure.
Right, and I think that's mostly it. Other folks asking whether you can LLM response, if you can ask to summarize a text and return the number of users interacting or topic or summary, or can they just be returned as separate JSON attributes, I guess. So the person is asking whether you can ask a question and get these attributes separately.
Yeah, your prompt should ask for the response in that way. Right. I was actually just playing with the response a second ago. I was like, put a response on each line and make them bulleted. Right. And it goes, okay. That's what it does, right? It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant what you can do. So what I would say is, like, play around with your prompts, right? And you just refine them. It's called there's a whole practice of prompt engineering, right? To make better prompts for your tasks. So there's tons of things that you can do. So there's a question when you just provide the table names, how does it know the columns to use? So that's what Select AI does for you, right? So it's going to derive the columns from those tables, and that's what it sends to the LLM to generate SQL. And not only that, you can apply additional metadata to the columns to kind of disambiguate them, right? So if you have kind of esoteric names for columns, add a comment and literally just explain what the column is. And that will help the LLM say, oh, okay, foobar.id is actually the customer's unique identifier, right? And so the LLM can use that as a hint for when it should use that column, for example. So it's pretty cool.
Right, and I see a couple of questions in chat. So no, we don't have yet a certification, right, for these for this specific topic. We do have a live lab, right, as Marty mentioned, and I did share that with a lot of folks in the Q&A.
That's right. Can we try these Apex apps? You can. The Apex app that's currently available in Live Labs, and the Live Lab is called something like Chat with Your Data. The chat one where you're asking natural language questions and getting responses back, that's in that Live Lab. So you can do that on your own. So you can do it in your own OCI tenancy. There's questions about Apex code generation, and I know there's a lot of work going on with Apex and AI, so you can expect that. That was actually announced at Cloud World. How are we handling the context from previous conversations? This is kind of interesting. There's a capability that's coming in February that does support conversations. So when you ask a question of your data, you can say, what movies are we selling? Only show me Tom Hanks ones. So you can keep refining your question. And because a conversation isn't like, you don't want to have a request. You don't have to restate your question time and time again. A conversation is a back and forth. And so that's what we're doing, is we're going to support that back and forth. So you get a result, refine it, right? Keep asking more and more questions about that result, and that is coming shortly.
OCI data catalog. Question whether...
Yeah, so what's interesting with this is we have integration with OCI data catalog and autonomous database today. And so what it'll do is when you have data that's, let's say, in a data lake, it'll synchronize the metadata. In other words, it'll automatically create tables over data that's in your data lake. So then you can start querying that data lake based on the definitions that are in OCI data catalog. And then you can just start querying it using natural language, right? Which is pretty awesome.
All right. I think that's the bulk of it. So guys, as always, you guys, final thoughts, you guys go to the ADB-learning-lounge there, the link that you see on the top here, and you're going to see the links. So I'm going to add a few more links there to the normal ADB there. We have the upcoming sessions that are going to be showing up there, and then the recordings are at the bottom, okay? So again, thank you very much for joining, guys. Really appreciate it. We are, keep an eye, right? Keep an eye on that link, and also on LinkedIn and X for updates on the upcoming sessions that we're going to have for 2024. And again, thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Marty. Thanks a lot for all of these. And then I'll be compiling the questions. If you guys still have questions, you can type them in. I'm still looking at them. So I'll be compiling the questions from now on. But again, thank you. Really, thank you for joining us, and appreciate your audience. Excellent. So I think that's it. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao.